Hi there, I'm Juliana Carroll, and this is my sister and partner in Coffee and Tech, Lisa Jackson. Together, we are your hosts here at the CofeeTechTalk show, exploring anything and everything to do with work orchestration and automation. We're here to be the catalyst for industry change by reaching beyond soulless solutions, listening, and learning from all our collective experiences. Most importantly, we're building a community of people who can share, learn, and grow together.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Coffee Tech Talk Show. I'm Lee, and this is my sister Jay, and we are back to talk to you about work. This session, we're going to be talking about people, process, and tools. Anything exciting happened this week?
Not too exciting, which is kind of nice. It had been, a very busy Monday. It was nice to be able to sit and think for a minute.
Yeah. Are you over this whole quarantine thing?
I was over before it started. I had literally met every squirrel within 1 mile radius or probably 3 mile radius of my house. And the ones that are really close, I know their middle names too.
That's funny. We're pretty excited because things are starting to open up. So we get to, go out and do the normal stuff for a little bit. So we're real excited about that. So last session, we talked about your favorite quote, which is very inspiring to all of us. Work hard to get lucky. And I've gotten a lot of people telling me that they love that quote. What inspired you this week, Jay?
Yeah, it's one that I know by heart also. It's a short one. It says, everything is impossible until it's done. So I like it because sometimes I have very long-term strategy, right? And people think, wow, that's just too big, too huge, too everything. So,
Yeah.
A lot of times I just start doing things. And then, as you make progress, then people jump on the bandwagon and then it becomes a party and things get done. So,
Yeah.
It's a good reminder to yourself, right?
That's right. Okay. Well, why don't we get started and we can review a little bit of what we learned at the last session.
These are foundational theories. It sets the stage for us to talk about workflow orchestration and, from a business perspective, right? This is not meant for technical architect to diagram. Let's really talk about how does work get done, right? What does it take to get something delivered, something produced? It takes 3 key components. So it's people. So therefore, you have to make sure that people know their roles and responsibilities in contributing to the output, right, from beginning to end. The process, and the process should be repeatable, efficient, and cost-effective. And then there's the tools, and the tools should be integrated, aligned, and fit for purpose. One of the things that you want to challenge when you create a workflow orchestration is this process repeatable? Is this process doing this, once you document this process and you have somebody do it 3 or 4 times, do they produce the same results? Because if they don't, then there's something wrong with your process or you haven't documented it in enough details, right? And then you have to make sure that it's measurable. So make sure that your system, whether it's manual or orchestrated through a system or automated, has a way for you to capture that data and later on analyze that data.
Our favorite coffee shop that we go to, there's a certain app that we have to use, that we get to use.
Right.
We get points, and it's you could pre-order, and all you have to do is pick it up because you basically, or you could just show your app and then they scan it and you're done.
Exactly. So if you look at this process, you literally save 5 minutes, right? So the time that you're in the store drops from 11 minutes to basically 6 minutes.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to this because if you remember in one of our sessions, I talked about everything gets a job number assigned to a job number.
Yeah.
And when we sell the project, we all know what that gross margin is. So everyone's job is to make sure that we hit that gross margin or we beat that gross margin, right? So that means we either have to cut the hours or be able to meet the hours in order to hit that gross margin, which means we have to make sure that our employees are trained. So let's say, for instance, if we have a new trainee, they're going to slow down the process, and that's going to affect the gross margin.
How do you know how long that training takes, right? So one of the things when we say process is measurable, if it's not automated, in order for you to know how long that person takes to do that particular work, he has to jot down the time that he starts. And he has to jot down the time that he finishes. There's different ways you can do it. The manual way is people carry around a clipboard, and then somebody at the end tallies it up. The semi-manual way, somebody gets an email, right? But what happens is you have to go collect all the different emails, right? And then manually tally it up. In a workflow orchestration system, you would get a notification via either, email or your app or, whatever notification method. And the system automatically captures that data, automatically stores it so that you can then the process of collecting that data and doing analytics and trending is very much simplified, which means you have data for intelligence, right? Business intelligence, so that you can do, better, faster, cheaper, grande chai latte. We're going to the tools. So tools are important, but not as important as people and process. This is something that that I run across into over and over and over again. I would, somebody would call and say, hey, my XYZ tools is not implemented correctly. Tools these days are basically plug and play. But if you don't configure it, if you don't have an efficient process, it will then automate an inefficient process, right? So when I get invited, quote unquote, to solve a problem, less than half the time the problem is the tools. Most of the time is the roles and responsibilities of people aren't clear, the process are not optimally sequenced, or there's missing components of the process, like there's no loopback rejection. Right. So things get stuck, and because it cannot move forward, it has also no way to restart to get all the missing pieces and then move forward. So one thing about tools is that you have to make sure that it is fit for purpose. Is a tool designed to do what you're doing? Right? So give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. That's Abraham Lincoln quote, right? But your barista doesn't want an axe. She wants an espresso machine. You know what I'm saying? So make sure that you give the people the right tools for the purpose of the activities that they are trying to complete, right? Make sure your tools is easily configurable, and make sure that your tool is also easy to integrate with other tools. Right?
Yeah, I totally agree. Salespeople are always screaming, give us the tools. We need the tools, the tools for this. And we have a CRM program, and marketing has a database program, and obviously accounting and HR has, QuickBooks and whatever program it may be, and project management has their program. And then, our warehouse has another program. But all of that, like you said, can be integrated, and that's how we're able to see profitability, because they all work well together. Yeah.
Right. So I totally get it. There are tools out there that tries to be everything. The problem with tools that try to be everything is that is very very cumbersome, very large, very hard to install, very hard to configure, and it's not necessarily fit for purpose. So what I do when I assess different tools is I see what the tools are built for, and I see how they connect to each other, because management needs all this data in order to improve the business processes end to end, and also to improve profitability across the entire spectrum of people and teams, right? So it's okay to have more than one tool, especially if they're fit for purpose. Just make sure that they work harmoniously together.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because we've gone through a couple of times where we were looking at, a couple of programs that did everything, to replace all of this. And it was really, really expensive. I mean, ridiculously expensive. And, sometimes the cost is a factor, right? And then the other part is like, we're comfortable using what we currently have.
Right.
And it serves the purpose, like you said. But it's not to say that we're not going to look at that again. But, I think that's a big reason was the cost, and the fact that, what we have right now, it serves our purpose. We may have upgraded a little bit. So we decided against, that one big program that could do it all. So
there are tools out there that can do many, many things. The key is make sure that you don't have to buy it all at once, right? Make sure that there is a common foundation, an integration platform, so that you can plug in all the different pieces that are fit for purpose for all the different teams. And then also, it's very hard to change an entire company, HR, facilities, IT service management. If you change all their tools all at once, it's going to be chaos, right? Yeah. So make sure that the tool that you choose, first and foremost, have a common platform. Now that we've covered people, process, and tools, there's one more tip when assessing what is it that you want to do and how to make things better, right? You want to start with the desired outcome. You want to start with the end. You want to know that, hey, when you say, hey, Jay, come take a look at this, coffee production and delivery workflow, tell me how we can make it better. The very first thing I'm going to ask you is, what do you want out of it? Do you want it to be faster? Do you want it to be cheaper? Or do you want it to be better? And therefore, cost is not necessarily a priority, right?
What our desired outcome is, internally, we want to beat or meet the gross margin. Externally, we would want to exceed client expectations.
Priority means there's number one, number two, number three. There can't be more than one number one, right?
Okay.
So you really have to think about that. Are you guys in a revenue drive, or are you guys in adoption drive? Are you trying to expand your client volumes, right? So if you're in
be both.
Very hard to do both. You can make, expansion as a priority, or you can make, gross profitability a priority. And one could be number one and one could be number two, but you get the point, right? Where the priority of the desired outcome is expanding the number of clients you have, you might have to sacrifice your gross margin, right? Where the priority of gross margin, because maybe you have limited resources and you just have too many clients and you're at, max production, then maybe you can charge more, because clients will wait for you and they're lining up, waiting for you because you're that good. So therefore you can maximize your gross profit margin.
Everybody's done that, right? When you want the client, you want the business, you do sacrifice that gross margin a little bit, right? I mean, you have to. And I mean, especially when it's a competitive situation.
You want to know what is the end outcome desired. Then you want to know what are the constraints, right? Do you need this delivered in the next 90 days? Do you want, are you trying to reduce the number of people that is involved in here? What is it that you're trying to reduce? You're trying to make it do things in a smaller real estate, so therefore people can, do more virtual work. And then as a consultant, or even, as somebody that is in charge of making things better, faster, cheaper, you definitely want to know who has the authority to decide that the output is the desired outcome. Because let's say that, because you're the account executive, you want gross profitability to increase, and then we design a workflow for that. And then, the CEO will come and say, but I'm trying to expand the number of my clients, right? So then you have to kind of start over again. So these are a couple of things that you want to determine upfront before you even click the start button to say what is step 1, step 2, step 3. You have to know what it is you're trying to go. It's like, building a map, right? So you got to know where you want to go. And then there's like 8 ways to get there. And one way will be cheaper because there's no tolls. One way, be faster, but there are tolls. And then, one way is a scenic drive. It's a better drive and less traffic, right? So know what's the desired outcome. Know what the constraints you have to work with. Maybe they're going to tell you that you're going to have to drive with a motorcycle. Well, that will really determine what path you're going to take towards the end goal. Or maybe you get to drive a Ferrari. The scenic drive might be a good one. These are some of the things that you want to consider when you're about to embark in analyzing work and how to make things better, faster, cheaper.
Yes, absolutely. And what I'll say is it's usually in reverse. We want to retain the client, and the back office wants to make sure the gross margin is where it needs to be. Right? Account executive is always about the client.
Right.
But everyone else is like, yes, we want the client, but we got to watch that gross margin, So that's why it's always, it goes
So the CEO would be the one that I would hold accountable for having the desired outcome. And then the account executive would probably who I would consult. And then, and the product manager, he would probably be responsible because he is doing the work. So
correct.
So as someone who is going to design the workflow, these are the roles that I consider.
Our business can be very complex. And when you're talking about constraints, anything, the deadline affects everything. And sometimes we would need 6 to 8 weeks, let's say, to build something and be, at the gross margin we need to be. But a lot of times we would start projects based on what our clients, give us, and we would have less than 4 weeks. The later it is, the shorter the time, it affects our gross margin, because then we may run into overtime and things like that, and material costs gets higher. Mistakes happen when you're rushed, right? So we never want to be in that situation that we're rushing and everything is at a higher dollar. So that's what we have to watch in our business.
You can also create a workflow that takes into account those types of situations. So many times in the past, I've built workflows where here's the normal. If you want the standard delivery, you go to this route. If you want a faster delivery, then there's another route, but it'll cost you more.
Yeah, tell that to the client. As you know, the client doesn't want to hear that part.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's the cost does go higher when we have shorter time. So we try to avoid that.
That's our last episode for the Foundation and series. So we can now start doing the fun stuff, right? CofeeTechTalk for next session is, if it's so good for everyone, why is it so hard to get your enterprise workflow orchestration project funded? So it's not always the cost. It's a way of getting your projects funded, but that's what we'll talk about next session.
I hope everyone out there took a lot of notes. And again, if you want the presentations, you can definitely email us at connect@CofeeTechTalk.show, and Jay will be glad to email that to you again for coffee or maybe more. In the meantime, make sure you follow us on all of our social media sites at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Coffee Tech Talk. So until then, anything else, Jay?
No, be safe out there.
Awesome. Work hard to get lucky. Until next time.